you. Yeah, welcome, welcome. Everybody else, welcome on back. And we'll get up to the main street here. You'll see more of the open area where they wiped out so many buildings throughout the 60s and 70s. Sadly, once again, not a whole lot of good over there. Little bit of pay parking, one tiny new building, nothing like the massive 7 they tore down. And as we make our way down further, you'll start to see on the tall remaining buildings some of those roof lines where those buildings disappeared from. Left side, 2-story building gone, just a parking space today. We'll give you a pretty good look at that levee though, how she fully wraps around to the floodgates we're about to drive through. Directly in front of us, 2 large concrete walls, 20 foot tall, 2 giant gates attached. Swing them shut, lower the bottom, sandbag them if need be. They actually closed these gates 4 years ago, one day, 2 feet of water on the other side. Next day, the river dropped down, opened them right back up. But the other side here, 2011, 5.5 feet of water sat here, 3.5 weeks. Shut the town down from this side. Water covered the porches, stretched all the way to the rock retaining wall, the original length of the Galena, 350 roughly all the way across there. Just below that wall are the original train tracks from 55. Thankfully, still hauling freight today. Sadly, no passenger trains today. River so tiny, but last summer she was almost all the way up to that black staircase in the middle of the bridge. It was about double or triple what it is today. But you can see a little bit of the dirt around the banks there. The river was double about a month and a half ago. We had a minor flood. Didn't make its way into downtown though, thankfully. But you can also see over the bridge the large red brick with the white peak, the Belvedere Mansion, largest in town. White peak on top though, that's what's called the Belvedere. It's a French word. Anybody want to guess or know what Belvedere stands for? They say beautiful view in French. Imagine sitting up there watching steamboat after steamboat would be a pretty awesome sight today. It is also a tourable building filled with the owner's personal private collection. 3.5 to 4 million worth of antiques and collectibles. And just about a month and a half ago, this whole parking lot was underwater. The tables on the other side were just about covered, not quite to the top of the level. She was definitely double what she was about a month and a half ago. But the river in its prime, they say the middle would have actually been the Grand Home side, roughly 45 feet deep in the middle back then. Just a tad smaller, of course, today. And we'll see the original train tracks going right underneath of us here from 55. Thankfully, still hauling freight today. Sadly, no passenger trains today. But I have heard rumors about one coming from Chicago to Dubuque, Iowa. Hopefully someday that will be a reality. Hop on our depot, end up in Chicago. The Belvedere opens at 11 o'clock here. Well, they're a little early, it looks like. Said you head up to the front porch to get tickets. Half an hour, 40-minute tour through here, showing off the collection inside. 3.5 to 4 million worth of antiques and collectibles. Some of the stuff you'd see, Teddy Roosevelt's chair is in there. He's also got a Tiffany chandelier considered priceless. Seen the movie Gone with the Wind? The green drapes she made into a dress? He bought those drapes at a Hollywood auction. They're hanging up in a window in here. And a few pieces from Liberace's estate as well. 3.5 to 4 million inside. The house itself over $1 million on its own. And you get the options to walk the grounds before or after. This side's got the trellis, the coach house. Front's got the hedge garden with the mermaid fountain. The fence though, an XO fence. Each X and O is its own section. Sliding on railings create your own pattern. All X's, all O's, or mix and match how you like. Said those came up the Mississippi, most likely St. Louis area. Another great feature though, if you find your way inside someday, 10 feet in the front door, the spiral staircase. Spirals 4 levels all the way to the Belvedere. 10 feet in, you get to peek right to the top. Quite unique just on that note there. But tour takes you to that second level, but still gets those little looks all the way up. Hedge garden with the mermaid fountain so you can take breaks before or after. Block 1 and the Block 1, I believe, are both still guest homes today. The signs are gone, apparently not a requirement anymore, but it is what happens to most of the big mansions. Too big for any 1, 2, 3, 4 families. Divide them up, rent them out, B&Bs and guest homes. We have between 25 to 30 B&Bs and guest homes today. Goes up almost every year. Left-hand corner is going to be a massive red brick, 4 pillars, E.B. Washburn, President Grant's Secretary of State. Also the building, it was announced President Grant would become the 18th president. Received the telegram there about 3 in the nice rolling hills filled with very loose, light soil, very easy to dig and mine through for many years. And of course, back then, no heavy machinery, no big equipment pulling out the lead, just guys in the hill, buckets, pickaxes, trying to get the lead out. Bad jokes, I know. And Horseshoe Bend back the other way puts us by St. Michael's Cemetery on the right side, one of the oldest cemeteries in town. A lot of the folks that made their lives in the rich mining time stayed here and were buried in the hillside. As I say hillside, you can see the cemetery on quite a slant. No flat area anywhere around. We are part of the driftless area where glaciers missed us all those years ago. We're going to park in line with a 3-story pillar halfway down that hill. Monument of Mr. Nicholas Dowling. Well, Nicholas there happened to be the second wealthiest man when he passed away in 1860. More importantly, though, Nicholas and his dad, the original owners, builders of the Dowling House, the very first stone structure trading post built 1826. Thankfully, stands today. It's actually the oldest stone structure in the state of Illinois, and a tourable building on the far end of Maine. I'll point that out, of course. But that pillar, great story of its own, built by his wife after. She's sadly up in age, poor condition. She still lived across a valley on bench, one level above Maine, in a 2-story white mansion. Didn't want to make that journey down, across, and up the hill every day in the bad condition. Took her time and money, 3 stories high. She could stand on her 2nd-story balcony and wave to him every morning across the valley. Sounds a little silly, sure, but sure enough, they say you can still see it from the balcony today. But if we get on that side, we're going to be above it up the very top, and we should have eyes on it as well. Usually in the afternoon, if the sun's out 4 or 5, lights up like a candle across the valley. Did have a 3-foot white cross up there, sadly came down 4 years ago. Big summer storm took her down. You'll see the sign in the field to the left coming up. What's to come up here? The new History Museum. When they started that 4 years ago, I thought they were converting this giant mansion to the museum. 1857, once called the Stillman Inn. Look up top, not a belvedere, a gazebo on the roof up there. Definitely an awesome touch you don't see in the house or mansion nowadays. I was really hoping we'd be able to get inside, go up top, look around. Not gonna happen. But they are supposed to break ground for the museum, I believe, just next month here. As we head towards Grant's house, though, these little houses brought here from different parts of town to save these buildings and fill it in more by Grant's house here. This gray one on the right here is a 1910 home. Left-hand side's an 1850 house. Down a little further on the left, though, the oldest one in this area, the white one, the Crossan House at 1836 right there. Those 3 sadly display and can't go inside. You do get to go in the red and white general store, part of Grant's home tour, as long as that's open. I do want to talk about that cabin in the left in the valley, 1851, brought in from the neighboring town, Elizabeth. Anybody want to guess how many people lived in that cabin at one point? Close, 8 people, parents and 6 kids in that tiny little hut. Guessing they didn't spend much time indoors back then. And Grant's house here to the right, open for touring until 4:45. It is not open Mondays or Tuesdays, so if you want to do it, make sure it's today. Half an hour, 40 minutes with 90% of the furnishing original. His bed, his copper bathtub, Julia's 10-pound Bible as well. The house itself, though, was a gift given to them in 1865 after the Civil War, given to him by the remaining 8 generals that came out of Galena. Yes, 9 total came out of Galena during that battle. Down in the main house, and that brick one behind it, great displays. One called the Zoo of Presidents. All the pets and animals they had. My favorite one, Teddy Roosevelt. 1 pet, a hippo. That was it, just a random hippo. But some of them had lions, tigers, bears, oh my, alligators, eagles, elephants, all kinds of crazy pets back then. If you are up at Grant's, though, head out front checking out Julia's monument, the very first lady we ever had. The first one to actually have that name designation. Also one of 6 to have a monument built in her honor. Commissioned 2011, I still think it looks more like Mrs. Buttersworth up on the hillside. But she was also very involved every step of the way, doing whatever she could. She was also really upset with Grant when he chose not to run for the 3rd term back then. And of course, 1877, running for 3, an option. Grant chose not to. He said, well, honey, let's take a vacation. A 2.5-year trip all around the world instead. Not a bad idea, of course. Coming up on the right in a sec here, you'll see an angled building. Check out the windows, colored stained glass. You'll see through it right out the other side. shoes there. Anybody want to guess the average women's shoe size back then? Close, but 4. Tiny little feet. Everybody's so much smaller. Grand Park to the left. Oh, a couple of kids in the park there. Oh, no more. So that is Grant's monument though. 10 foot of granite, 8 foot out of bronze, 18 foot tall on the hillside. The gazebo pretty awesome on its own. You got the fountain down here in the middle. Trellis wrapped in vines. Very back corner has a large Civil War pillar. It's on the other side of the tree line, sadly though. Then we're going to go right over this white fence in the backyard. You'll see a tree fort wrapped around the tree. Old school style. Who didn't want a fort like that when they were a kid? I still want one today. Belongs to the family that moved here 5 years ago. 1857, Oren Mansion. A steamboat mansion. Oren Smith, his name was. Said, as you could guess though, 57, a big year. We had money, access to the brick, the manpower they built as you see. My favorite part though, the pillars out front. Also called split brick pillars. Tiny little blocks bottom to top. Rare, not built like that today. 8 years ago, they were messed up. Cracked, broken, missing, the paint worn off. Crew went inside before people lived here, pulled out original block and repaired them bottom to top. Amazing how they can do that with the original stuff after all this time. Doesn't even stop. It is going to be hard to see. It's got the velvet here, the 360 viewer. So I'm going to pull up to this right corner, kind of peek back, you'll get a shot. We're also going to go down and come back. So you guys behind me, you'll get a better view when we come back through though. But if you do see it here in a second, you'd have no issues seeing across the valley atop this mansion today. It is hard to believe it's a residential with just a family of 4 in there today. A couple and 2 little kids, I believe. But putting us more into what I call the residential side, we get into finer details. Starting off simple with little pillars right out front. Jump right into 4 big columns on the front porch. Now that porch itself is going to turn into hand-spun spindles on the wooden wraparound deck. Comes around the corner, shoots almost a full length down the side as well. The tan and green one here, what they start to call cookie cutter accents. Trim on the porches, windows, railings, fine details bottom to top. Sometimes they call these gingerbread homes with the cookie cutter accents there. Then you get the paint pattern making the trim work top like that. Just a great look out front. Big white one next door, unique as well though, built by a student of Frank Lloyd Wright. Nice clean lines, the boxy style he was known for, 10 big pillars out front, just a clean looking house. 1909 it is, over 100 years old. You'd hardly be able to tell, and maintained so well for over 100 years. No extra colors, no fancy trim, but still an awesome looking home right there. But they are in a historic district, so there are do's and don'ts on the outside today. One of the don'ts today, putting stucco on the brick like that to the right, all done before the 80s. Sadly stuck with the stucco today. But now we're in a historic district, so all the remaining brick can never be covered up again, thankfully. And we're going to head down a block here to a general's home, General John Smith. And we actually had 2 General John Smiths come out of Galena during that war. Once again, 9 total. Little brick guy, green shutters, 304 the address for John Smith. As we park and pull up front, I want you to look between the windows. There's a big metal star. Anybody want to guess or know why the star is there? Correct, the structural support called the tie rod, holding the entire building together. Attached to the star is a metal rod. Runs along the wall inside, out the back. Another star outside, tightens, tensions, keeps it standing up straight. This is how they repaired old saggy brick buildings back then. The crazy thing is, that's how they still do it today. Now that you know what they are and we go downtown, you'll find hundreds upon hundreds of tie rods. Almost every brick building has 2 to 20 of those today. They call that a single rod house. They say if the rod broke inside, the house would split in half. Hopefully and luckily, we'll never see that done. All protected. They'd have to rebuild it as close to original as possible. By far my favorite house though, what you call a Queen Anne home or a painted lady. Nothing not to like. Massive in size, dual chimney, bay windows, wraparound deck, screened-in porch, hand-spun spindles. The paint pattern. Minimum 4 colors on a painted lady here. This one got painted about 7 years ago and it became residential. Was a B&B before then. Had to go to the Historic Society. Get charts. Right color, right order, bottom to top. Super tedious to paint it like that, but done right, maintained well, an amazing look you just don't see everywhere else. Add been thinking about moving to Galena, fell in love with the Queen Anne style? We got one for sale. Here on the corner, 1895 Queen Anne house here today. $313 the price. Not a bad price, but you're gonna have to put a paint job on top of that as well. Dressed so nicely though, porch to peak for the painted ladies. Screened-in porch, pretty key feature of the Queen Anne's as well. But this little area back here, once considered Galena's red light district for many years. Lots of little cottages and cabins set up, rented out to miners, soldiers, steamboat captains. That way at night they can step out, hook up the lantern. That way the ladies knew, come on over, grab a beverage, and enjoy some good conversation. I try to keep it clean here. And it's hard to tell, but on top of the tree line there on the left, there's a blue house sitting up there. You can't see, but I'll show it to you in just a half block. When we get between these tan ones in a moment, look up, you'll see the blue house. Part of it sticks right off the edge, held up with 4x4s, down to a little flat there. Right off the edge, she hangs. When we get on the other side, they call it more terrace gardening, where they cut levels, shelves, plots right in the hill, utilizing every bit of hill space bottom to top. No flat land, and really hardly anywhere. But as soon as we cross the valley, there is no flat land over there at all. Everything's on a hill or a slant. Terrace gardening takes over. Little gazebo on the right, walls of the gazebo came out of an elevator out of Chicago. Repurposed, got a whiskey barrel table in there somewhere. My favorite tree in town, gotta be over 150 years old. It's got a face on this side. Pretty amazing that tree's made it this far. And back down Park Ave we go here. We'll check out another General's home. Across from John Smith on the left will be General Rollins on the right. Gray and white one, 305, the sheriff in town before he became a general. And one of Grant's good buddies before the war, they said as well. But the house and land have gone through a lot of changes in the past 10 years. Paint's changed twice, fences brand new, even those stone walls are about 9 years old. Shipped in with the right stuff, built the right way, hard to tell they weren't there the whole time. I do want you to take a sec though to think about the front of Rollins' house. This ain't it, this is the back of it. The front faces downtown with that amazing view across the valley. Every house on the right faces downtown. All you're seeing is the back of them today. Used to be a back alley, it eventually turned into Park Ave. And we're gonna park up there in about a block and a half, and I'll give you that shot into downtown as well. Next one though will be to the left up the side road, all the way over at the base of the hill. There's a set of stairs that climb to the top. It is a closed set, so I don't recommend trying to climb them. But imagine the history they could share. Folks to school, groceries up and down? No way, not today. This little guy though is an old steamboat lodge. Not much original besides the pillars out front. That little 1824 sign went up about 2 weeks ago. Actually makes this the oldest building in Galena today. Brand new information for me as well. But it used to be a back trader lodge here. Said on the back side there was another level dropping down. Said the farthest the steamboats came up the river. Big wide turnaround, drop them off to spend the night. $1 a night to stay, 15 cents a meal was all. Wish it was open today. Moving in for 30 bucks a month don't sound too bad. Sadly, this project started 8 years ago. Started, stop, started, stop, started, stop. And we're doing okay this year. Hopefully they will get it done someday. Barn style next door, cool beveled windows up there on the porch. And we'll give you the shot across the valley. Get eyes on a big white mansion, 4 pillars, and the gold trim in the middle. Mr. Nicholas Dowling's mansion. The second-story balcony is the height of the roof you see in front of it. That's where his wife would stand, waving to the pillar every day across town. Amazingly, so you can still see it from that balcony today. When we get over there, we're going to be to the left of that big white church peak, all the way to the top. We're going to have pretty good eyes across there. Just how the sun hits it is how well we'll see it here in the morning here. But in the afternoon, 4 or 5, glows like a candle across the valley. Second white one, very bad shape. It was empty for 8 years, but some folks moved in about a month ago, so that's slowly going to come back to life. Way back in there, tiny little white cottage, the Telford House. We'll go from the back side, down the sidewalk, past the picket fence, to the wishing well. And he just rebuilt the well there and all rotted out a few years ago, but that is also the back of the home. The front faces downtown, 4 giant pillars on the other side. And I'll show you those pillars at the end of our tour. We're going to be on the back side of Maine. I'll have you look up on the levee. Looks like the house sits on the levee. can't even tell there's a river in the middle from the other side. Then to the bottom of the neighbors, that green tile or green block. Only building I've ever seen with colored tile in the wall. Up to pop-out blocks, intricate woodwork, a lot of cool stuff, but I've only seen it on that home. Back to hand-spun spindles, beveled windows, wraparound porches, cool things they don't do today. And we're coming back past the O-ring on the left here in a sec. If you couldn't see the Belvedere, give that a look. Would still be a pretty amazing view across the valley today. Hard to believe it's residential with just 4 people in there today. A couple and 2 little kids. But Grant Park here also has 4 cannons. One of those includes the cannon that fired the first shot of the Civil War. The one from Fort Sumter, brought here on its 100th year anniversary. A little farther down by the flagpoles, a World War I cannon right at the base of the pedestrian bridge. That bridge takes you into downtown. So if you're ever down there, you can't find parking, don't want to pay for it, try this side, free all day. Make the hike over the bridge, don't worry about it till you gotta come back. Next time, maybe. Right side, the original train depot, 1856, built a year after they laid the tracks here. Before it was even built in 56, Abraham Lincoln made his way down the tracks, got off here, then made his way to the DeSoto House Hotel. Said he, oh, wait for that car, they don't have a stop sign. Oops, yeah, bad idea there. Said, but they knew they were stopping there. But Abraham Lincoln came down in 1856, made his way to the DeSoto House, spent the night, and gave a speech off the balcony on Main Street, 1856. And I'll point out that balcony when we get down there. But picture everything to the right of the tracks, though, wide open river all the way across there. Still amazing how much it filled in throughout history. And the erosion, the main cause of the fill-in, they were dredging it, but at 10 grand a year, not worth it when the demand for lead dropped. And we did have bridges back then, not like this though, different style, swing bridges. So big they could swing across, allowing people across, swing them sideways so steamboats could still go up and down. And, oh, they decided they're turning, sorry folks. They come right over there. Alrighty. So up here, we are just over halfway. How you guys doing back there? Awesome. Got a couple cars. We'll go check out the other side. And everything on this side of town is terraced garden. There's no flat level anywhere. Shelves, gardens, rocks, retaining wall. And we'll start to get eyes on the old high school up there with the green peak and the clock tower. That's where we're headed, all the way up. Once we get around this tree in the middle, you'll have a nice unobstructed view of the clock tower. And not a super exciting fact, the bank to our left here opened 2 years ago. Not necessary. In the 70s, there was a KFC building, believe it or not. In the 80s, though, we banned chain restaurants when we became a historic district. KFC eventually went bye-bye. Keeps it original. No McDonald's, no Taco Bell down Main Street. Awesome ordinance for sure. And one of the few places I know that have an ordinance like that as well. But as we head up Highway 20, we're going to go through a lot of your rentals, the B&Bs, the guest homes, bike and water rentals, all that fun stuff. And then in a few blocks, we'll hook a right, head up to the top of the bluff. Keep an eye out in the tree line for deer. There's a lot of them that live here in town with us. You just never know where they're going to pop up, though. And that retaining walls and terrace gardening kicks in basically immediately. Behind the giant red house is a giant retaining wall. Wraps all the way around, stays with the wall, turns into buttresses that hold it up. Back into gardening, steps, stairs, right to a little cottage in the hill. Nothing wasted at all. Some of your rentals, the Hotel Galena, the Riverboat Suites. Down farther, the Farmer's Guest House, 1867, a B&B you can stay in today. Bike and water rentals at Nuts Outdoors, other fun ways to travel. And these are rentable from the right up to the intersection as well. Between 25 to 30 of those B&Bs and guest homes here today. Left-hand side, big block tan structure. Once was a brewery. Green porch next door, the Ice House. Look in the middle as we go by, you'll see cellars up in the hill. That's how they kept kegs and ice, nice and cold, right up in the hillside. One giant fridge for sure. And we'll make that climb to the top here. We're also going to make a pit stop, though, right by the rock ledge. We're going to follow the ledge right into a big cellar door right in the alleyway. This building here was an 1843 brewery. That cellar door there's how they got kegs and equipment in and out of this structure. Said the gentleman living here, a Bavarian brewmaster, made a completely different style than the other 8 we had downtown. And I always thought this was a residential house. It's actually a B&B you can stay in. Fully restored. I think they even have shuffleboard in the basement down there. But terrace gardening kicks in. Level, shelf, rock, retaining walls, every inch utilized. My favorite example of the garden, though, comes up behind this White House in a sec. Gotta get around the big bushy tree. Looks 6 levels up to the top. Benches, garden, shelves, all the way up. Nothing wasted at all. You can see it pretty good on the other side between the gray and green one here if you missed it. All the way up they went. You can also imagine not too many lawnmowers or weed whackers to take care of that here. And we did see quite a few big mansions. How about the little guys, the miners' cottages? Tiny buildings they fill with as many miners as possible. Said they didn't spend much time indoors though. They were really in the hill pulling out lead as much as they could be. As they did so, they got that lead sulfide. So they'd haul it to the river, heat it up, and pull out what they wanted. Lead the main one, zinc the other primary. Zinc used in the mason jar lids. Gave grandma's pickles that little extra flavor back then. And as they pulled out lead and zinc here, they got over 80% of the United States lead and zinc out of Galena. Over 20,000 tons back then. Above the playground equipment on the right here, black fence wraps around the ridge. Marks the oldest cemetery here in town. Oddly enough called the Old City Cemetery, 1828. Established 2 years after town. Signboard on the right here. And there are gates in the fence though, so if you want to walk through there, it's open all the time. It does, however, come with a pretty bizarre, eerie story, even for a cemetery. Stating some of the first folks they buried up here in 1828, they actually had no idea who they buried up here. Sounds bizarre? It is. And I'll finish that weird story around this corner. We're gonna turn right, straight ahead though, the steepest road in Galena. You're not gonna see the bottom as we turn. Other side goes up like a V in the valley as well. One to avoid in winter time. And cars just come out of nowhere up that hillside as well. Made that mistake once though, hit the bottom in winter, slid right up the other side. Luckily nobody was coming down the middle of it. We're gonna park by the driveway, gives you a better side shot of the cemetery. Sadly, big old tree came down over a month ago. Hopefully we'll get cleaned up someday. But the monument's going on over 200 years old. Pretty impressive. But the eerie story stating they didn't know who they first buried goes back before Galena was Galena. Think about that riverway. Folks made journeys up and down throughout history. Sadly, didn't always survive. Common practice back then, you found a plot off the river, said your goodbyes, threw down flowers, down they went. They didn't generally mark graves with solid permanent headstones on river ventures. Sadly, oddly enough, 1828, downtown Galena, our first flood. Some of the folks buried upriver came downriver. Gathered them up, brought them up to the high peak, back in Europe they went. No idea who they were. It chose to leave headstones, so said they actually wrote stranger across the stones here. Little eerie, little unique, but the right thing to do. 300-foot elevation from the river. They should be okay from here on out. Back into the hills, the dips, the block, the brick. Where did all the brick come from? Well, we had 6 brick factories, all by the river. As they dredged it, they got clay and silt off the bottom, put it in block molds, dried it out, and built buildings with it. Essentially, the hillside became the riverbed, which became Main Street. Big old dip around the corner here, nice and slow. Then we're going to make a pit stop. Gives you an amazing view across the valley to the left. Ooh, that pillar of Nicholas Dowling kind of blended in. Straight at this elevation there, she's a better way to find it is find that round silo above the tree line. Come down from the round silo into that silver pillar. There's also up top of the tree line a brown roof up there. That's the Irish cottage on Highway 20. Just below that brown roof is that pillar. If the sun lights up here in the afternoon, that thing glows like a candle, even without the 3-foot cross. The mansion she'd wave from though is down 2 levels and a little to the left, but still visible today. Amazing back to 1860 for sure. This little guy we're parked by though is a B&B as well, but for sale if you're looking to get in the business. Fountains, trellises, gazebos, a lot of cool stuff tucked up in that backyard there. But now we're going to take a trip way back in history, back to the dinosaurs. We got a T-Rex, the pterodactyl in the branch, the tin man, the totem pole, yard art galore in this one here. And poor Elmo there. Poor Elmo. And brings us to the original home Mr. Grant lived in, here on the right, 1860. Grant lived here about a year before the war, paid $100 a year rent was all. He made about $600 a year in his dad's leather shop. But let's think about his trip to and from work, twice a day. Once down, once back up. Well, he wasn't hiking through yards and hills. He'd go higher to take the stairs. 240 bottom to top. Twice a day. That's 480 minimum. Let's say he was downtown at the leather shop. Wanted to come home for lunch. Got to double the 480. And to make sure you didn't forget things, didn't want to make extra trips up and down. It is a guest house though. Info in the box. He can stay there. But let's imagine Grant popping out, doing some stretching, hiked his way up to the highest peak. St. Matthew's Lutheran Church, the highest point of Galena. Pretty awesome stained glass lit up there. Why all the cars are up here, parked up here today. But then Grant would hook a left down this alleyway. You'll see a set of tree with a set of stairs, 2 black railing down the hill. This is the top of the 240. We're gonna park in the middle. I'll get you that great view across the valley in just a few. They chopped down a mess of trees last year, opened up a perfect shot across town. The woodwork, the paint, the trim, check this balcony out on this guy here. Amazing detail all the way through there. Even the balcony itself though, sadly things they don't do in construction today. Another great style gone by the wayside, 2-story pillars up the front. Red and green one got a paint job 2 years ago, left the original hand-spun spindles, brought it back with a paint job. Tiny guy in the corner is an old Oddfellows Lodge, just a residential today. Took them about 3 years to bring it back. The pillars were rotted, the walls had holes. A lot of great energy went into making that look like what it does today. We're going to park across at an angle though, give you a better shot of the balcony to the right over there. Right up top on that balcony, 1877, Grant and Julia stood, announced he was not going to run for the 3rd term. Wanted to make the 2.5-year vacation around the world instead. Said he could gather so many townfolk up here to make those announcements. Sure enough, they did, took their vacation. Actually lasted about 3 years on their trip. A lot of time in Japan while they were gone as well. Straight ahead though, concrete wall marks the other crazy stairs. The old school step. 190 from Main Street up to the high school on the bluff. We're going to go down, come back, and I'll park by the wall, let you stand up, slide over, get a peek and a photo down if you like as well. But the old high school here, built in the late 1850s. Burned down in the early 1900s. Rebuilt 1905. Used as a high school till 1980, 75 years. Today she is luxury lofts and condos, with probably the best views in town up there. Sadly, our view gets blocked as the trees fill in here. You don't get much off the hillside, but I'll give you the shot across the valley on our way back to Maine as well. My second favorite house coming up on the right corner, an old grocery store owner's home. Vaulted levels, wrap-around deck, giant windows, just a cool looking house. It is for sale, little pricey, around $600 I believe, but you can see why. Let's take a sec though to look under the porch roof, painted light blue, a southern style called paint blue. Excuse me. Apparently represents water, warding away evil spirits. Also heard it represents the sky, keeping bugs and birds from nesting under there. Either way, pretty neat, like the windows, a form of tax evasion. Back then, getting taxed on every door, every closet for some on Bench Street below you there. I know how steep it is. I used to live down there, climbed it multiple times. By the time you hit the top, you gotta grab trees and pull your way up. The old ice cream shop, 2 levels straight on down for the old high school kids here. As you go by it though, look in the second window out front as we pass it. There's another balcony you'll see out front. 4x4s holding it up down to that little flat below it there. Living life on the edge. And we'll get up to the stairs. I'll park, let you stand up, slide over. Don't worry, y'all jump to the right. We will not roll, I promise. Still used every single day. To and from work, some for exercise, some just to see if they can make it to the top. Feel free to stand up, slide over, get a peek or a photo as we hang here. As you're looking down them though, you gotta think 1860, high school morning, trying to make your way to class. Well, back then you weren't empty-handed. You probably had a lunch pail, maybe even a book or two in hand. I do assure you, they were not concrete. Wood slats with no back. They were open. Think 2 metal railings straight to the top. Even steeper, even scarier back then. So let's go empty-handed. You're halfway up, starts raining. It's slippery on the wood slab. How about winter, ice and snow? We get bad ones just like Wisconsin. They had to make treks regardless of weather. Some of them minimum 4 treks a day. Depending on where they were, where they lived, if they had to go to school. We do have a great event though every September for the fallen firefighters of 9/11. The 5K steroids. 3.5 miles of stairs. They start below us, up the set, down the road, down the other set, 7 laps around the middle of the stairs. Firefighters do their first in full gear. Amazing to watch. Usually a couple hundred run the stairs for that event. We get a little peek down the Main Street and Bench there, how she drops down quite abruptly. Then we're going to follow this nice black railing on the left here, rod railing, pretty well detailed. In a moment though, it's going to hop up to some amazing cast railing here. This made in the foundries downtown. And we're going to park by this big mansion so you guys can stop and move around to see the top level. It's hard to see. An Italianate style with a tiled mansard roof. Tile all the way around the top. Been in the process of restoration over 15 years. Never ending on a house that big. The mansard part though refers to that roof angle, pitching back, no gutter system on the home. But anybody want to take a guess what activity happened on the 3rd level back in the day? Appropriate activity? Ballroom dancing up there. Imagine the best view in town, see the valley lit up at night, dance the night away up on the hillside. And even though it is a residential, I've heard rumors about bringing the ballroom back. Who knows, maybe next time you're in town you can dance the night away up on the hillside. Still gotta go 4 levels to get up there from here though. Living life on the edge, here's your home, the Osprey's Nest. 3 levels straight on down. Killer view if you can stomach the drop off here. Would not want to be a clumsy person or a heavy drinker living in a house like this. 1 wrong step, down to Bench Street you go pretty quickly there. And we're going to slide forward here to the biggest set of stairs, a 240, 190 to the right, 50 to the left. We'll park in the middle, give you the best view across the valley here. Chopping down trees last summer opened up a perfect shot into the park for us. And once again on park so you can top up, get a shot of either side there. But as you're looking down this set, you got to imagine Mr. Grant, minimum twice a day to the leather shop. Well, let's go back to when Grant Julia first came to Galena. Showed up here in 1860. Came to town by steamboat. Sadly, brought furniture along as well. Grant didn't want to waste that first trek to the house empty-handed, nowhere to sit. Grabbed 2 wooden chairs off the boat. Up the stairs, 2 chairs in hand, first thing. Sounds a little crazy, somebody climbing the stairs with chairs today. Last summer, though, saw a guy run the stairs with a bike on his head. People are still crazy today. Most of the big ones, though, converted to the B&Bs or guest homes. The sheer size, you gotta rent them out. Down further, the dual staircase, my favorite guest home, the biggest, the Felt Manor. Also has the tile mansard roof atop. We're gonna park here so you can get a look at that as well. It's actually a brand new roof, finished just last year. Took him 3 years total just for the top level. A lot of energy and manpower went into it, and it shows. Thankfully, as a giant guest home, there is parking on the other side. You don't actually carry luggage up all the stairs here. And the belts from 1850, some of the folks who made uniforms for the Civil War soldiers back then as well. And all the cars here don't tell me it's busy in Galena. It tells me church is in session at the 1835 Grace Episcopal. Amazing stained glass and 3-foot thick stones as walls. Inside the building, they have what they call an urban organ, a massive pipe organ, brought by a steamboat, hauled up by horse and buggy, still utilized today. I'm sure they had it going a few minutes ago, or a little bit ago here. And down the bench we go. Whee! Just kidding, guys. We got good brakes. Right side, the fire department. Surprisingly, not that old. 1940 is all, built to resemble the one it's attached to on its right with the red balcony, Turner Hall. Turner Hall, built 1874. The sole purpose? Entertainment. They wanted something big enough they could perform acts, plays, ceremonies, large gatherings. Sure enough, utilized for that still today. Have weddings in there all summer long. Look in the middle though, connected but separated. Built over 65 years apart. Couldn't tell they were built a day apart. Did a great job blending them. We also worked in the historic district in the 40s. Wasn't a requirement to match them. They chose to do it and did a perfect job. All voluntary for the firefighters back then, still today. Just a great part. Giant stage in the back of Turner Hall, balcony up top on this side so you get a chance to go in. Look behind it, they were pulling out limestone as they dug through those hillsides as well. Right into some amazing cast railing loaded with detail on the right, made at the foundries downtown. Only the rich folks had stuff like that back then. 1829 Methodist Church. Black sign on the left says U.S. Grand Pew. Sit right where the Grant family sat. And the scary look at the 240 up the hillside. You want to find them and climb them? You find Benvenucci's, the Italian restaurant on Main. That's the start there. No shortcut on the stairs. Little brick building, the original fire station, as well, with an old pull-behind water carriage. That gets lit up at night, which is really cool to see. Heard it's actually the second oldest fire station in the country today. Kind of amazing this little building's made it this far. And if you haven't got enough history from me today, up here on the right, just a half block, is the History Museum. And they are open till 4:30, I believe. All self-guided, lots of audio displays. Hit the buttons, they'll tell you what you want to hear. Parking if you want to drive up as well. Wedding dress exhibit, haven't seen that yet there. And in 1832, St. Michael's, the biggest church, brand new stained glass, brand new stairs, bright blue stained glass if you're out at nighttime. Look up the alleyway, you'll get a glimpse of how massive it really is. Huge building. Up the next alleyway though, we'll get that terrace gardening down the hill. Level, shelved stone, why it was so steep, coming down. And we're going to park on the right here once this runner goes by. Gives you an awesome shot at the 190, old school set, all the way up they go. Look up on the third platform, there's actually benches. You can sit down, take a breather. Almost everybody does. Not a bad idea either. But this little plot of land we're sitting in here filmed in a movie many years ago. Anybody want to guess or know which one? Just a few scenes in Field of Dreams. Yep, with the ghost baseball players. Kevin Costner, when he goes into town to see Doc, Burt Lancaster, walks right here on bench. Stairs all lit up at night in the back. End up on the far end when they go to his office on Main. Pull it up on YouTube today. Look up Galena scenes of Field of Dreams. It'll pop up there. Rest of the movie filmed in Dyersville, Iowa, just about an hour away. They still play it to Field of Dreams today. Used to live in the second house with a flag, lots of trips to the top for fun. Very steep, but I found a mine entrance halfway up. Big hole with a 6-foot boulder jammed inside. It did not come out. I tried. Missing buildings from the 60s and 70s give you a great view on Bench Street here. The old Catholic middle school, sadly empty today, was an ARC center for many years. Art and recreational for children. More missing buildings to the left give you a great view to the train depot, levee tying into the gates. Still can't see that river, it's so tiny today. And one more awesome massive building just a bit up on the right here. It's going to be the public library. It's going to be an 1895 Carnegie, finished 1907. It's also built out of an amazing material, Nauvoo limestone from Nauvoo, Illinois. Very sought after, very expensive, over 100 years, maintenance free, worth the price tag. Doesn't seem to crack, crumble, fade, just the way it was when they put it here. Still a public library today. Lower levels have all the historic facts, and 1895 on your green sign, 1907 on that cornerstone of Carnegie. And we'll head down the hill back through Main, through the floodgates. right side, great gates and railings as we head down the hill, made in those foundries we'll see on the back side in just a few. But when we hit the green light here in a minute and head back through the floodgates, right-hand side of the big concrete wall, about the top height of Lanier. White sign with a red line. That'll show you the high water mark from 2011, 5.5 feet of water. As the water pushed on the gates and levee over there for 3 weeks, water backed its way to this intersection. You can drive on 20, but it was rivered from here right to the rock wall and the train tracks. As much as you love the gates and levee over here as well to be 100% effective, they are not. In 2011, after 3 weeks, Mother Nature won. Broke pumps on the levee. As water went under, gushed right up to the buildings. Every building on the right side of Main Street took on water in 2011. Thankfully, every building down Main made out of block, brick, stone, something solid, something permanent. An ordinance passed 1850 stating if your house burned down, you built new, had to build on with solid, permanent material going forward. Prior to 1850, wood houses downtown, all hooked together like a matchstick. One caught fire, they all went up. They actually burned down most of Galena twice before 1850. Since then, things have basically got built how they are today. A lot of folks do call it the town time forgot just for that reason. But just a little over a month and a half ago, the river was right up to this tree, and it was actually in the river for about a week or so. All the way up to the levee the river was. Last summer, about 6 inches, it was coming over that wall. High water mark on the right, white sign, red line, 5.5 feet there, 2011. And the gates and levee did their job for around 3 weeks. Once they failed, gushed under, nowhere to go but these buildings. Everything on the right got wet. But block, brick, stone, dry them out, replace your merchandise, almost good to go. There is one building downtown I know had a complete restoration after the 2011 flood, the DeSoto House Hotel. One more block up on the right, oldest hotel in the state, 1855. You'll see the balcony coming up on the corner of it. That's where Lincoln gave his speech off of, 1856. That balcony lines up with 190 old school stairs that go all the way up. So you can imagine sitting on these stairs watching Lincoln give his speech on Main Street. What a sight it would have been to see. Folks coming down as we speak there. They actually reenact that Lincoln speech once a year as well, first week of March, I believe. But today we're at over 120 shots up and down Main here, with about a half mile from floodgate to stop sign. Down and back, you walk a full mile through Galena. Well, you might be tired already today. Past the red awning for the chocolate factory, black strip, 5 white circles, 5 tie rods. Look up between the mini sign, a tie rod in the middle. Hop to the right, tie rod, tie rod, tie rod. Hundreds and hundreds here. Grant's monument in the park, take a photo with the president. The tan building is where his leather goods shop was, 1860. The whole reason Grant came to Galena. Now let's suppose he decided, I don't want to work for my dad. He never showed up. Where would the country be without the leather shop today? And hot sauce on the right, jams, dips, jellies on the left, free samples of almost everything. Try it before you buy it. Watch yourself in the hot sauce store, seeing some nightmares come out of there. If that happens, hit the ice cream parlor on the left, over 20 flavors of the handmade waffle cones. Down a bit on the right, the popcorn company, red awning, over 20 flavors, free samples of whatever they're popping fresh today. And a little went to the left, down the hill between the buildings, the last remaining original cobblestone road. Imagine being in a horse and buggy traveling that road today. Little painful for sure. Fried green tomatoes, fine dining Italian on the right, lines up with the Dowling House tucked up to the left, oldest stone structure in the state. Take a half-an-hour guided tour, go through the bottom level, trading post, upstairs to the living quarters. Brewing company, last one of 9 we once had, down to Dirty Dirt's Burger Joint, great spot to grab a bite. They get a burger in there with 2 glazed donuts as a bun. Sounds really gross, but it's delicious. My favorite's probably the City Diner with a fried egg on top, pretty epic as well. One more must-do, big red barn building, Blacksmith Shopping Museum. 2 coal forges over 120 years old. They still heat them up and bend metal today. Smoke rolling out, it looked like almost. But they sell everything they make, all voluntary for the blacksmiths. So you can take home a nice piece made right here in Galena. Sadly, the lumberyard became an easy sell store, took over the whole block here. They do open up the building and the lot for parking, sadly paid parking though. Next This one's going to be another half block down once we get past the Mirror Light building here on the left. Then I'll have you look left hard to the levee. You'll see the Telford house up on the levee with the wishing well we couldn't see the front of. There she is. Hard to tell there's a river between there today. Big Green Dome, the old market house, farmers markets, wagons and produce selling it out the square. Public restrooms past that if you need those out and about. Then the gray iron / lead line foundries, loaded with tie rods and operational today. Casting gas meters today. Not the nice railing we saw around, but operational is kind of awesome. And if nobody comes down this side road here, we're going to tuck in, give you an amazing shot at the 240 set of stairs all the way up. Once they trimmed the trees last year, we can now see all the way to the top from the air. And go ahead and imagine the wood slats, the ice, the rain, the snow, even empty-handed on a nice day like today, still quite a haul to the top, but kept a lot of them in amazing shape, some of them minimum 4 trips a day. You can also see in the Grand Park over there, his monument, the cannon, the gazebo, take the bridge to get over to the park. And even though the floodgates weren't closed last summer, the hotel took on water, lowest part of downtown, had to pump the basement last year. But it's also held together with new tie rods, diamond blades up the side today. Left side where the fenced-in areas where the drainage backed up from the flooding, water was pouring right out of the street there. The post office, though, is the second oldest continually running, operating post office in the United States today. 1857. Built out of the Nauvoo stone, just like the library. Over 100 years, maintenance-free, worth the price tag. Still swinging tomorrow, pick up a stamp and mail a letter. With that, though, folks, brings us back to the Trolley Depot. Hope you guys enjoyed that today. Now you know more about the history and where it's located.